This is last year's mixture. It sat in the excuse me, the no-weed garden back there where I just took you, and all that is really is compost, some aged rice hulls, and I put parboiled rice hulls on top. Not as much as the main garden, but some. But I'm going to dump this out and show you what it looks like. Now the rain has had a chance to rinse these all winter long, and because I fed it water soluble fertilizer, that should help rinse it. In the bottom I have, I used to use these containers, if you'll see a little circle in there, where I put a net cup in and I do hydroponics, letting the net cup sit in a hydroponic gutter. And so that was my first trial with hydroponics, and that was 2013, 2014. Anyway, I've been using these same containers. They're sucralose containers with the top cut off. So they've been sitting, and that's why it has a hole in it. Finishing my thought here. And on to cover the hole, I put an old piece of my microgreen kits here that I used, or in some cases I'll use a piece of screen from the microgreen screens. Just covers the bottom, that's all it does. Keeps that hole from losing the soil mix. Just take some extra pieces, and what I'm doing here is I'm rummaging through it. I'm looking for old plant roots. Most of them have died back where they're not even noticeable really, and any extra large sticks or debris or something. So I put 2 of these in here. I'll take another one. You can see this one has a little bit more parboiled rice hulls on top. And the screen I was telling you about is in this one. And so it's just leftover material from a microgreens polypropylene screens here. And just to cover the hole. Now while I'm doing this, I'm taking, and these are plastic pots that you can buy really inexpensively. And you can fill these with soil and use them themselves, but I use it as a cover over these sucralose containers to keep the light out and to make the overall appearance of the containers a little more attractive. So I'll set this aside and we'll continue going through this here. This is good. I'm glad it showed this. This is one of those I can't remember the name brand, but basically it's them little potting containers, and these do not break down, at least not in one season. Here's another one. And so what that does is, now I take them off, but what that does is it restricts the roots, and your plants have a much later, not a much later, but excuse me again, a later start than normal. So what you got here is all the old mix, and now I'm going to add to it to replenish it and to make it a little bit better for the year. Here is what I'm using. On the right, what you'll see is in Little Rock there's a place called Ambient Minerals, and that's where I get the perlite. Obviously you can see that. And on the left, right over here, is peat moss, sphagnum. It's called Majestic Earth, and that's the brand that Lowe's carry, which is closest to me. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add 2 things of perlite, and I'm going to move the camera over here to show you. I'll just do it in real time here. Because this stuff is really dusty. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and put on my mask now, because this part here can get stuff in your lungs if you're not careful. So here I am. Got my mask on, I guess these masks are good for something other than the pandemic, because obviously from the latest research, they didn't do much good during the pandemic, did they? John Hopkins, whatever. So I got 2 of these 3/4 gallon. I'm gonna put 2 of them in here. See all that dust? I don't know if you can see it, but there's a whole lot of dust. That's why people rinse this. But for me, I don't need to rinse it. Now this is a sucralose container that I did not cut the hole into the bottom to use with hydroponics. And I'm using it to measure the sphagnum peat moss. So all I do is I take and I scrape it, gets the chunks, and I'm filling it up 1 container's worth that's going to be added to the mix. Doesn't need to be compressed. Alright, I dump it over that perlite. Now this is the peat moss, also has a lot of dirt and dust in it. And in fact, if you don't have a mask on, like I've got, you will find that your nostrils, inside your nostrils, are like black looking. So it is definitely worth wearing a mask. All right, before I mix this, I just want to tell you I'm doing all this in the shade because it is sunny, sunny, sunny out there. So I'm gonna mix this now, and I want to tell you why I do it the way I do it. I've tried everything. I've tried using a shovel. I tried using a 3-prong rake, a big rake, and all that. I've tried doing it on the ground. I've tried putting it inside a tarp and just jerking the tarp back and forth. And this is the absolute easiest way, less stress on my body, less work, and it mixes it really good. So what I'm gonna do is I'll explain it first and then I'll just do it. I take my hands in and I move them and I twist and turn, just like this. And it mixes really good. So let's get after it and I'll show you what it looks like. It's really not much work at all because the mix isn't that heavy. And you can see it's getting quite uniform now. I'm using my arms as a more or less a tool. Now it's mixed and I do a shake like that to get it off of my arms a little bit, and then I start to fill the containers. All right, so I take the same container I put the peat moss in. It doesn't have a hole in the bottom, remember? And then I take and I do that with it, and I take one of these that I've beautified the rounding edge here to make a black round edge, and then I dump it in. It's already got something to cover the hole in the bottom. Put that aside, and then I take and top it off just like that. All right, that's one. I do every one the same exact way. Now you know how I do everything for replenishing the mix. Replenishing, revitalizing, renewing, whatever you want to call it. If you look down here, you can see the drip tape. And the drip tape has not only the holes where it's going to drip out, but these little tabs that catch the water, so I can get a general spacing just by laying the drip tape out. think there's 7 rows. Let me see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 7 rows of 8 for a total of 56 pots in this side. They call this the shed no-weed garden. I'll do another video showing how I set it up. But right now I need to get all these containers in their spots so I can plant the plants. This is Brent, you guys. We'll see you in the next video.
How long do we gotta stay here for people we don't know in one lines? All of the clothes are designer, fast cars and